Hello friends, this is Ratnam from Government Degree College, Bhutan. This today's session, second year, third semester syllabus, inorganic coordination compounds. This is a most important topic in organic and inorganic altogether for intensive point of view. What are coordination compounds? You have to understand this by comparing different types of compounds that we generally come across. Compounds based on the bond between atoms is taken into consideration here. We have ionic compounds where the bond is ionic in nature, that is, both the atoms form bond by sharing one electron, but the two electrons, that is the bonding electrons, are what they retain in a towards one single atom, which is more electronegative in nature. So that gives ionic type of bond. That is, the bonding electrons are uh, within the what, one atom, and it is that is the atom is getting a negative charge, and the other atom remains as positively charged ion. So that is ionic bond. And second way of forming bond is covalent bond. That means if the electrons are shared equally or in between two atoms, then that is called covalent nature. But here also both the atoms are giving one electron. They share one electron, and the two electrons are shared between them. That is how covalent bond and of course ionic bond. And in between covalent nature to ionic bond, there are so many other types of polarization is possible, which come generally according to the rules of Hazen. Hazen's rules are applicable there. Anyhow, in all such bonds, the point is that both atoms which are in bonding, they are sharing one electron. So that is the main point. But when we come across this new type of compound, that is coordination compounds, here uh, the two electrons are shared by one atom, and the bond is shared between two atoms. That means two electrons are given by only one atom, and that bonding to electrons are what shared between two atoms. So this is how there is one donor and there is one acceptor. This is a new type of bond formation. So by this way, two electrons are given by one donor, and there is acceptor which accepts these electrons, and a bond is formed. This bond is called coordination type of bond. And the complex, the word complex is mainly used to denote coordination sphere. That is what we call as complex, coordination complex. So here, how to understand this? These complex compounds are special class of compounds in which the metal atoms or ions are bound to a different anions or neutral molecules. So that is what we are going to understand. What is this exactly metal ion and what are these neutral and ions? So let us go across this. So before we enter into the coordination type of bonds, we should understand simply that any salt, what we call as single salts, simple salts, are nothing but when anion and cation combine together, that gives a salt, that we know. And there are some what possibilities that two or more mixture of two different salts or three different salts may combinedly give you one single crystal, single type of compound, that is called double salt. For example, more salt. If you can see this ferrous sulfate, ammonium sulfate. So these two sulfates are actually separate, two different salts, but on combination these two, they are hydrated further with H2O molecules, and that gives a new type of new compound, which is called double salt. Similarly, we can have same such combinations of two different salts. There also we are getting some new compound, but that new compound is coordination complex. So there is a difference between coordination compounds, which are combination of two salts, and double salts, which are also combination of two salts. So both are double salts, and coordination compounds are combination of two or more number of salts. So that is the point. But what is the difference basically between these two? Double salts actually are a temporary attachment. That is, temporarily they are bound, just for crystal formation only. That is in solid state only they exist. Whereas coordination compounds, they are permanent type of bonds. When double salt is dissolved in water, then all the ions disperse independently. That means when ferrous sulfate, ammonium sulfate, 6H2O, more salt, is when it is dissolved in water. Then ferrous is separate, sulfate becomes separate, ammonium separates, and everything is separated. So that means they disintegrate into ions, into ions separately. Whereas if you take coordination compound that is complex, that complex will not dissociate further. So that complex remains as a single ion only. So it will not dissociate whatever there in the coordination sphere, that will not come out of the sphere and they do not become ion. So this is the main difference between double salt and coordination compounds. So their identity is retained even in the solution state, that is coordination compound. Whereas double salt, they lose their identity and they become simple ions. That is a major difference. So this is the major point which we need to understand, that these double salts are different and coordination compounds are different. Now we can have any number of examples here. This is potassium sulfate, aluminum sulfate, H2O. This is called potassium. When this is dissolved in water, then we see that potassium plus ions are separated, aluminum plus 3 ions are separated, sulfate ions are separated, and H2O molecules are also separated. So all ions are separated. That means that salt is no more when it is in the liquid solution form. When you take this coordination complex here at the bottom, this is the coordination compound, potassium ferrocyanide here. Potassium ferrocyanide, when you consider this potassium ferrocyanide after this dissolution in water, you dissolve it in water, only the outside the bracket, this bracket is complex. So outside the bracket, they are ions only. So potassium is only ion. And after that, iron cyanide do not separate. Whatever written in the brackets, they do not separate. That is the coordination sphere, what we call as. And this coordination sphere is due to coordination bonding. Due to coordination bonding. So that is how we generally understand the difference between double salt and coordination bonding. Now let us look at the structure and the way how we write this coordination complex. This is essentially some features are there. It is a combination of one metal ion, that is called central metal ion, indicated with M, and ligands, that is indicated with ligand L. Here, to understand simply, we need to understand that metal is the acceptor, that is electron pair acceptor, and ligand is electron pair donor. So ligands, they donate electrons and metal accepts electrons. So this is how a bond is formed. So here this ML6, metal is only one, whereas ligands can be many in number, maybe 1, 2, 3, or maybe up to 6 or 7 even sometimes. And whatever we write the square brackets, so that square brackets indicates this ML6 is a complex. So that is all in the coordination sphere. So this is how we have to understand that coordination sphere. And 6 number here, for example, in ML6, 6 is the coordination number. That means how many coordination bonds are there. That gives coordination number. Yeah, you can see the example here. Ammonium, cobalt, and 6 here. Look at this. Cobalt is the metal, right? So in the place of metal, we are writing cobalt. Cobalt D orbital, that is the 3D element. So most of the metals generally we take from D elements, that is D black elements only. Of course, there are some cases where we have metals from S black elements and also rarely from P black elements, but most of the cases they are from D black elements. And the ligands can be any number. There are different types of ligands that we have to classify. But so here it is metal and this is the ligand. Ligands are taken sometimes written in brackets and 6, this is coordination number. and this is a square bracket. Square bracket means this is totally complex coordination sphere. So when you dissolve this in water, this total sphere is intact, will not lose its identity. That means whatever the coordination sphere is there, when you dissolve in water, it will be what as such, and it will not separate. That means cobalt cannot separate and ammonia cannot separate further. And whatever they can write like oxidation number, this total what charge of the complex is right here, and that charge is calculated based on the charge of the ligand and also oxidation number of the metal. That we will discuss later. So this is how we generally take a complex ion. This is metal ion and surrounded by ligands. We need to understand this. And coordination number, already I told you that it may be starting from 2, minimum number is 2, and it may go up to 6 and 7. So it can be 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, like this. So this is what we call as number of, it is not the number of ligand atoms bonded directly to the central metal ion, but it is the coordination number, means coordination bonds, total number of coordination bonds. So that is how we can also call it as how many ligand atoms which are forming coordination bond, that is also same equally. So anyhow, this we can see this coordination number 2 means how the shape is, coordination number 3 how the shape is, 4, 5, 6, like this we can see so many structures of coordination complexes. Now let us try to understand one by one. Ligands and metals. Metals, anyhow, we know that metals are all mostly from D, that to 3D mostly, and 4D also there, 5D also there. So 3D elements are 4D elements, are metals. Whereas when you speak about ligands, ligands means electron pair donors. That means they contribute electron pair to the bond formation. So here ligands are so many in number. Which are coordinating bonds with metal atom, they are called ligands. For example, in this case, cyanide is a ligand in this example, and ligands can be negative, positive, or neutral. So it is not mandatory that it is always negative. It may be negative, it may be positive. Sometimes even they are neutral. And the ligands have the behavior of donating electron pair. So this behavior, this tendency of giving electron pair is called Lewis basic character. So every ligand behaves like a Lewis base without any doubt, and every metal ion behaves like a Lewis acid because they accept electron pairs. That's why they are acids. And ligands give electron pairs. That's why they are bases, Lewis bases. And let us go through different types of ligands. How many types of ligands are there? As we know, negative, positive. Similarly, we have other types of ligands like monodentate or unidentate or polydentate, that is multidentate, and ambidentate. What are these different? Monodentate means when a total molecule gives only one coordination bond, that means it gives only two electron pair and one coordination bond is formed, that is called monodentate. If a molecule forms only one bond, it is called monodentate. If a ligand, a single ligand, forms two or more coordination bonds with the metal, the same metal, if a ligand forms two or more number of bonds, they are called multi or polydentate ligands. And ambident ligands means in some examples, in some ligands, there are two atoms which can donate electrons and which can form coordination bonds. And but it forms only one bond, and there is a chance that it can form bond with one atom one time, and it can form bond with another atom some other time. So that is what we call, that means if the same molecule has two different atoms for forming coordination bond, that is called ambident ligands. For example, nitrito, we can call it the nitrito. So in nitrito, nitrogen is, here you can see nitrogen, this is also electron pair donor, and oxygen is also electron pair donor. So nitrito O, nitrito N. That is, it forms a coordination bond with nitrogen and also with oxygen. Here it is wrongly given. It is oxygen. It should be oxygen. Monodentate already we are telling that any number of atoms it may have, but that total molecule gives only one pair of electrons and it forms one electron coordination bond with the metal. So, for example, halides, ammonium, H2O, and so many others. So you can see this H2O it is giving electron pair to metal, so that only one coordination bond is formed. That is why it is called monodentate ligand. And polydentate means it may be 2 or 3, 4 or whatever the number. You can see this oxalate, for example, in COO minus CO minus. So here also we have one O minus, here also we have one O minus. And these two from the same molecule. This is totally one ligand. And one ligand giving two electron pairs separately. So here this is one coordination bond, this is another coordination bond. So this is how we get two coordination bonds. And similarly, ethylene diamine, this is NH2, CH2, CH2, NH2. Here also we have two centers, that is NH2 and NH2. So it can form two bonds at a time. That's why it is called a bidentate ligand. Here also diacetyl and dioxin. This is also a good example. So like this we can have so many examples are there where we can understand that two donor atoms are there and it may be having three donor atoms. We can take example EDTA, ethylene diamine tetracetate. EDTA is the best example where we have six coordination bonds are formed from only one ligand. So EDTA is a ligand which forms six bonds with single metal ion, and that's why only one ligand is enough. We need not have six ligands there. And we have to calculate the charge, the total complex. How to calculate the total complex charge? Simple. So we have to consider the oxidation number of metal ion, central metal ion oxidation number, and also the charge of the ligands. So for example, here FeCN taken 6, that is hexacyano ferrate ion. This is negative ion. So hexacyanoferrate means 6 cyanides are there. So each cyanide is one minus 1. So this is minus 6, and iron is in plus 2. So plus 2 minus 6 means minus 4. If iron is in plus 3, then here it will be minus 3. So based on the total charge, we can calculate oxidation number, or if oxidation number is known, we can calculate total charge. So this is how we can. Let us consider nomenclature. This is what, how to name coordination complexes, because there are so many different types of possibilities, combinations are possible to form complexes. That's why there should be some method by which we can give naming. So we have certain routine methods like given as IUPAC name. Nomenclature is there for coordination complexes. In general, we know that always cation and anion combination, whenever it's present, then we have to speak out cation first, then anion. So that is a routine method. So for example, sodium chloride is there, that means NaCl. So sodium plus is cation and Cl minus is anion. That's why we call it as sodium chloride. Na plus Cl minus. So cation name first, anion name next. Um, so as we know that ligands are any like anions are negatively, positively charged ions, or it may be neutral like, and if they are like monodentate, bidentate form. Um, so first there are certain rules which we need to understand, that ligands are named first in alphabetical order. For nomenclature, let us see this first. After that, we will go back. So the method of naming here. First, ligands should be given name, because in the complex, if whatever there in the square brackets, that is what we are meaning by complex. So our meaning of complex is something which is written in the square brackets. So that is complex. In that, ligand's name should be given first, and that too in alphabetical order. After that, if ligands are more in number, then you have to add a di, bi, something, tetra, tri, like that, penta, hexa. After that, metal should be given the name, and again metal. If it is a positive complex, then metal name normally we give. But if it is negatively charged complex, then we have to give ATE. 8 is should be added to the metal. After that, we have to indicate the oxidation number of the metal within the brackets. And if you write ion, in case if it is ion, if not necessary. So let us go through first the names of ligands first. Yeah, ligands names. You can see here on the left side we are writing anionic monodentate ligands, neutral ligands also on right side. So you see this anionic ligands F minus actually chloro, Cl minus chloro, Br minus bromo, I minus iodo, O minus 2 oxo, Cn minus cyano. Nc minus is there thiocyano or isocyano. No, this is isocyano. OH minus hydroxo, sulfato, thiosulfato, S2O3 minus 2. NO2 minus nitrito, N or nitro is also called. ONO if you write, that is nitrito or simply nitrito O, you can call SCN thiocyanato, NCS isothiocyanate. Like that, we have some common examples. So negative, and we have dimethyl oxalate, some bidentate ligands which are negative in nature. So there are so many number of ligands which are there. We can go through any literature. Many number. When you look at the neutral ligands here, ammonium, amine, it's called amine. H2O is called aqua. CO is called carbonyl. NO nitrosyl. Methylamine, pyridine, ethylene diamine, for example, bidentate ligand, ethylene diamine, ethylene triamine. So like that, we have like other simple names for ligands. And if there are more number of ligands present, then we need to say di, tri, tetra, penta, hexa, hepta, like that. And 10, up to 10 deca. But there is no such number. But if the name itself is having, if the ligand name itself is having some terms like di, tri, tetra, then in such cases, for example, ethylene diamine, En is there here. Here it is ethylene diamine, En is ethylene diamine. So the name of the ligand already is having di, ethylene diamine. So di is there. If you write 2 means diethylene diamine, it becomes a wrong meaning that there are 2 ethylenes and 2 amines. So that's not correct. So in that case, if this terminology already occurs in the ligand name, then we use the multiple numbers with bis if 2 numbers are there, and tris for 3 number, and tetrakis for 4, pentakis for 5. So like that we have to say these words when the ligand name already has these terms. That is di, tri, tetra, like this. If the terms are already present in the ligand's name. Otherwise, you can use directly only simple. And already we know that after ligand name, how to pronounce metal ion. Metal ions already we told that if the metal is positive, then normally normal name should be given. For example, aluminum, antimony, chromium, cobalt, copper, gold, iron, lead, like silver, platinum, nickel, tin, zinc. So normal name. If the same metal is negatively charged ion, then the total complex is negative. Okay, if on the complex pair, if you write minus something, minus 1, minus 2, whatever it may be, if minus is there, then the metal should be given ATE. The last word should be ATE. For example, if it is zinc, it should be zincate. If it is tin, it should be stannate. If it is silver, it should be argentate. If it is platinum, platinate. Nickel, nickelate. Manganese, manganate, manganate, and lead, plumbate, iron, ferrate, gold, aurate, copper, cuprate, cobalt, cobaltate, chromium chromate. So like that we need to pronounce write the name of the metal. If it is negatively charged, then we have to write ATE at the end. If it is positively charged complex, then we can simply write the name of the routine name, like gold is gold. But when you write negatively charged ion, then gold becomes goldate. It's not goldate, it is aurate. Arum, AU, is the correct name for gold. Similarly, silver also Ag, argentate, argentine, that is, so it becomes argentate. Like tin, so stannate, the names are little bit lead. So the few we need to uh, consider. Others are same name. Already we have taken this rules that first ligand should be given names of the ligands. All ligands should be named first, but that is in the if same only one ligand is there, no problem. If different ligands are there, then we have to follow alphabetical order, and after that the number of ligands should be also indicated. Then metal name, and after that uh, oxidation number of metal in the brackets. See here, first example. This is nickel and cyanide. Okay, here how many cyanides are there? Four. So that's why we need to write tetra. Cyano is cyano. Then it is a negatively charged complex. That's why nickelate. Then after that bracket within brackets, two is the Roman number two, because nickel is having plus two charge. The oxidation number of nickel is plus two. That's why two Roman number two is taken. Similarly, cobalt is Cl6 minus 3. Here, this is six ligands are there. That's a hexa. This is chloro. Ligand name is chloro. Hexachloro. Then cobaltate, because it's negatively charged. That's why cobaltate. And the oxidation number of cobalt is 3. That's why bracket 3 Roman number ion. Then you see cobalt Cl2 NH3 taken 4 plus. Here, how many ligands? Two ligands. Metal ion is cobalt. Cl2 is two ligands. NH3 four ligands. So two ligands. Then what we have to take? Alphabetical order. Which will come first? Amine and chloride. So A, amine comes first. That's why we have to mention amine first. How many amines are there? Four. So tetraamine. Then how many chlorides are there? Two. So dichloro. Then cobalt. Here it is a positively charged. Total charge is positive. That's why cobalt simply, not cobaltate. Cobalt. And within brackets, oxidation number. How to calculate oxidation number? That we will come across. But the method is simple. That oxidation number is to be calculated based on the charge of the ligands and the total charge. Here ligands are -3 0 charge, whereas chlorides minus, each one minus, so -2, and there is plus charge is there. That means cobalt must be in +3. So tetramine, dichloro, cobalt 3. Yeah. Here, if it is take, if you are looking at the last one, here this is Na3 complex begin cobalt NO2 taken 6. Here Na3 is the cation which is not in the sphere, so it should be given first name because it is cation. So sodium and space. So after sodium space, because ions need not be written continuously. Only complex, whatever there in the complex, we have to continuously write without break. That's why we can easily identify. Here sodium. After that, the complex begins. The ligand name is nitro. So how many six? So hexanitro cobaltate, because it is anion. Cobaltate 3. So like that we write the names. So here you can see diamine, dichloro, platinum 2. Like pentamine, pentamine actually chloro. Okay, that chloro also. Pentamine, chloro, cobalt 3 chloride, and the chloride, the last chloride is the anion which is there outside the sphere. It's not the ligand. So like this is also written as potassium hexacyanoferrate 2. This is potassium hexacyanoferrate 3. So simple difference. Iron is +2 oxidation number in the first one, and in the second case it is plus 3 oxidation number. This also you can see hexamine cobalt 3 sulfate. You can see simply you can write. Similarly, potassium trioxalato chromate 3. Next one hexamine platinum 4 ion of course. Tetrabromo cuprate 2 bromide. Of course, in some cases it is written like nitrate, chloride, bromide. In some other standards, it is written simply chloro, bromo like that. So some variations are there between atoms. Now let us try to understand some theories which are used to understand what is the nature of coordination complex. Werner's theory is the first most important theory. Is Alfred Werner, a Switzerland chemist, put forward a theory called valence theory. It is the most successful theory, and for the work he did, he got Nobel Prize in 1913. Alfred Werner. He took cobalt chloride and also combination of ammonium so that a ammonium cobalt complex is formed with chlorine atoms. So that combination he studied the conductivity studies and the precipitation of chlorides by using silver nitrate. So some experimental evidences he observed and he collected that evidences. Based on that he proposed his theory. He proposed some important postulates. What are they? The first postulate is that there are the central metal ion, that is atom, whatever it is, in coordination compound exhibits two different valencies. So valency means bonding nature, which is called valency. So that how many bonds it can form, that gives valence number. So it exhibits two different valencies according to Werner. One is called primary valency, second is secondary valency. Primary valencies are ionizable. That means they can divide. That means whatever primary valency is formed, primary valency is satisfied, that can be ionized further. And the number of charge must be equal to the number of that negatively charged ions. So this primary valency is always equal to that is the there must be negatively charged ions to satisfy this primary valency. Only negative ions can satisfy this. And the total charge of the central metal ion must be equal to the total negative charge of the anions. So this is how the charges become equal. Uh, and primary valence is non-directional. It will not be having any specific direction. It can spread into anywhere, any direction it may take. And in his diagram, he has shown with the dotted line. Primary valency things are shown with the dotted line, and there, but that indicates oxidation number of the metal ion, and they are compulsory. It must be negative charged ions which to satisfy this primary valency. And number three, the total number of anions, that is total negative charge, must be equal to the positive charge of the central metal ion, and they are non-directional. They are shown on the dotted line. And if you take secondary valencies, then it is something. This is the coordination numbers. Actually, this must be equal to coordination number, and all the bonds are very strong bonds, and they are shown with thick lines, and they are specific arrangement. That means they have directional. So here this is what we in his diagram he is showing with thick lines. That is how we propose it, that primary valency and secondary valency. For secondary valency, the ligands can be neutral, negative, or anything. Whereas for primary valency, it is must and should that ions, that is only negative ions can satisfy primary valency. Whereas for secondary valency, any electron donating ligand can satisfy this. So it may be negative or maybe positive or maybe neutral. So these are the main important things what he was explaining. So according to Werner's theory, he has taken this same thing and he tried to understand the nature of cobalt chloride ammonia. So different things he observed that in certain cases, for example, in the first case, the formula is same. Here the formula is same. Coordination number is also same, but the formation of bonds are different. Here for cobalt, you see here there are only one. There are just double bonds are there. These three chlorides here, one chloride, two, three. So three chlorides are separately bonding. That means the thick lines are six already. So six amines are there. They are forming coordination bonds. That means amines are satisfying secondary valency. So secondary valency always indicated with the thick line. Thick line is indicated for all amines. So ammonium ligands are satisfying secondary valency. Now chlorides are satisfying primary valency. Three chlorides are necessary because cobalt is in plus 3 oxidation number. That's why we need three chlorides. Now here, whatever this dotted lines, they are ionizable. So if they are only dotted line, that's why these chlorides are ionized. Whereas amines cannot be ionized. They are not ionizable because they are forming coordination bonds with thick bonds, thick lines. They are not ionizable. And when he tested for the conductivity of this compound, he got three chloride ions separated. That means ions are formed, and whatever the conductance he observed is due to three chloride ions. And the second, in the second complex, here we see one chloride is forming two bonds, that is thick line, dotted line, and two chlorides are having only dotted line. That means here amines are only five. Here one amine is missing. So in one amine, that is sixth coordination bond is formed with chloride ion. That means here now chloride is a coordination bonding, which is in coordination bond. So five amines and one chloride. So six are coordination bond. And simultaneously chloride can also satisfy primary valence because it is having negative charge. That's why so negatively charged ions can have both thick line and dotted line. That means it is satisfying primary and secondary valency at a time. Whereas thick line, neutral, they only satisfy secondary. Only dotted line, they only satisfy primary. So how many are having only primary? Two chlorides. So when you dissolve in water, then we have only two Cl minus ions are formed, separated. Because thick line, whenever thick line is there, it is not separated. That means it cannot be ionized. So that's why we get only two Cl minus. Therefore, the conductivity is observed based on only two Cl minus. Therefore, the conductivity is less than first one. Second molecule have less conductivity. And you take the third one. Here, two chlorides are having two bonds. That is dotted line, thick line. Only one chloride is having that single dotted line. That means only one chloride is having one primary contact, primary valency, whereas two chlorides are satisfying primary and secondary valence together. That's why after when you dissolve this in water, then how many ions are formed? Only one Cl minus ion is formed. So one Cl minus ion and remaining total complex. So that is the whatever the any conductivity is due to one Cl minus and complex ion. And if you look at the last complex here, there are only three amines and three chlorides. That means total all are forming coordination bonds. That is three chlorides are forming coordination bonds and three amines are forming coordination bonds. And the three chlorides already due to negative charge, they are also satisfying primary valency. That's why here when you dissolve this in water, then no ion comes out because there is no ion which is only satisfying primary valency. So the point what you have to understand is if any ion is there, any ligand is there which satisfies only primary valency, that is ionized. But if a negatively charged ion has both the characteristics that it can satisfy primary valency as well as secondary valency, then it can have two bonds like thick line and dotted line. It's not bonds, but it is given like lines according to Werner at the time. And whenever such things there, then it is no more ionized. So in this case, how many ions we can expect when you dissolve in water? No ion is formed. That's why the conductivity is zero. In the last case, the conductivity is zero because no chloride is free, not ionizable. Therefore, it is not coming out. So this is the basis of understanding the complex, that how primary valency and secondary valency are separate, and primary valence indicates only negatively charged ions, and they only satisfy, whereas secondary valence is satisfied by uh, any ligand. So the coordination complex is first explained by this Werner. It was a little bit satisfactory, but it cannot explain so many things. Uh, does not explain why the bonds in coordination compounds have directional properties. That is not explained. So it cannot explain the color property, magnetic properties, and optical properties. There are so many other properties are not explained by Werner. And after the discovery of electron, the Sedgwick is the first person to understand what is the meaning of coordination bonding. According to Sedgwick's theory, the coordination bonding is formed um, just by donation of electrons. Just by donation of electrons, that is, ligand donates electron pair, it gives electron pair to the metal ion, and that's why he suggested that all the ligands are giving electron pairs, and he suggested an arrow from ligand to metal ion. You see this? So all are arrows. So they are just simply giving electrons to central metal ion. This is how we write Sedgwick theory. So the ligand donates the electron pair to the central metal ion, and thus it forms a coordination bond. So this is what, and he proposed a very important concept called effective atomic number. This is very important from examination point of view. What is this effective atomic number? The effective atomic number is nothing but the total number of electrons on the metal ion. It is the total number of electrons on the metal ion when a complex is formed. That is called effective atomic number. So that total number of electrons on the central metal ion after formation of complex must be equal to noble gas. That is next coming noble gas configuration. Then once it attains noble gas configuration, it becomes stable. So that is the idea of Sedgwick. So he proposed that effective atomic number. So the complexes which have effective atomic number which is equal to noble gas configuration, noble gas atomic number, then he proposed that they are most stable compounds. See how to calculate this effective atomic number. So this is one important area where we need to concentrate. You see, first we have to take the atomic number of the metal. We need to understand what is the atomic number of the metal. And every metal is in ionic form. That means it has some oxidation number. So you remove that oxidation number from the atomic number, because whatever the oxidation number, that is nothing but number of electrons which are lost. If plus 3 means 3 electrons are removed. If plus 2, 2 electrons are removed. So that's why we are calculating the electron number. That's why the oxidation number indicates that is so many number of electrons are already lost. So atomic number minus oxidation number. Then add the electrons which are donated or given by the ligands. There are whatever the total number of ligands, each ligand is giving 2 electrons. So each coordination bond is giving 2 electrons from ligand. So that's why that number of electrons donated by the ligands, that is Y. So Z minus X plus Y. So this is simple formula which is used to calculate effective atomic number. For example, if you look at this iron, the 6 cyanides, hexacyanoferrate 2. So here in the oxidation number of iron is plus 2, atomic number is 26. So we have to write 26 minus 2, so 24. Then how many coordination bonds are there? 6. So how many electrons are donated by cyanides? Total 6. Each one is giving 2 electrons. That's right, 12 electrons. So 26 minus 2, 24 plus 12. 24 plus 12 is equal to 36, which is the electron configuration is noble gas configuration of krypton. Now we can easily understand that this particular complex is following EAN rule. That's why it is a stable complex. So this was the idea of Sedgwick. You can see so many examples which follow this EAN rule. For example, chromium with 6 cobalt carbonyls. So hexa carbonyl chromium plus 3 it is in fact. So chromium is 24 electrons. Here it is not having any positive charge and negative charge. It is neutral. That's why chromium is taken 0 oxidation number. in this particular case, zero oxidation number. So 6 cobalts. So chromium atomic number is 24, oxidation number is 0. So 24 minus 0, so 24, and 6 coordination bonds, that's right, 12 electrons. So 24 plus 12, 36. So total is 36 krypton configuration. Already we iron hexacyano. Yeah, see this. Hexa, the pentacarbonyl iron. Pentacarbonyl iron is also, you see this, 5 iron is 26, 0 oxidation number again, 26 minus 0, and carbonyls are 5, so 10 electrons altogether. So 26 plus 10, 36. Yeah. Nickel, you can see nickel with tetracarbonyl nickel. Here nickel is 28. Again, 0 oxidation number, that's 28 minus 0 is 28. And 4 carbonyls means 4 ligands, that is 8 electrons, 28 plus 8, 36. So this is how we can easily understand the total number of effective atomic number, how to calculate this effective atomic number. But there are some cases where this effective atomic number is not followed by so many metal complexes. So many examples where which do not follow Ahn rule. That's why this Sajjivik theory was also not valid, not 100% valid, and it cannot explain other properties also. It only concentrated this thing, that how and why central metal ion accepts electron. So that was the only focus given by Sajjivik, because there was an idea that each ligand is giving 2 electrons. If 6 ligands are donating 2 electrons means 12 electrons. Then it becomes very difficult for the central metal ion to hold so many electrons. So that is the reason why he explained that it is going to achieve noble gas configuration. That's why it is stable. So it need not and become unstable. But there are so many complexes which do not follow Ahn rule, but still they are stable. So why they are stable? That was not explained by Sedgwick. So this is the main idea of Ahn rule. So in this session, we had a discussion on what is coordination complex, what is the difference between double salts and the coordination complexes, how to represent coordination complex, and what are the IUPAC nomenclature rules to represent or to write the name of a complex. We have to give the name of the ligand first. After that, we have to mention that too in the in alphabetical order. We have to give the naming of ligands in alphabetical order. After that, we have to mention the name of the metal, and if it is negatively charged complex, then you have to give the ATE. ATE is to be added to the metal name, and at the end we write the oxidation number of metal within the brackets in Roman number. So this is how we write the name of the complex. Then we started the theories. In that theories we discussed Werner theory, according to which primary valency, secondary valency, there are two valencies for the central metal ion, and he denoted a dotted line for primary valency which are ionizable, and a thick line for central coordination bonding for secondary valency. So he explained by taking cobalt ammonium complex, which he explained based on the conductivity, and also by using silver nitrate to precipitate the number of chloride ions which are present in the solution. And after that theory, Ahn rule was explained by Sedgwick. According to Sedgwick, electrons are donated by ligand to the central metal ion, and after donation, the total number of electrons on the central metal ion becomes equal to noble gas configuration. That was the idea of Sedgwick, and he called this as effective atomic number. And due to this noble gas effective atomic number, all the complexes which follow this Ahn rule, they are stable. But there are so many complexes which do not follow Ahn rule, but still they are stable. Why? And let us go into the next session. In the next session, we will discuss the other part of the same lesson, that is valency bond theory, and the details and how to explain the complexes by using valence bond theory. Thank you.